Today we're going to make cute little mini Nutella pancakes in this paniyaram or ebbelskiver pan. They're going to be stuffed with Nutella, and then to make them even more indulgent, we'll drizzle more Nutella on them. So let's get started. We're going to start with getting some buttermilk for this recipe, but pretty much like you, I never have any buttermilk lying at home. So we'll just take 3/4 of a cup of milk and add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. You can use lemon juice as well. And we'll just give that a stir and just set it aside and let it do its thing, which is basically let it curdle. So while that milk curdles, I'm going to move on to the dry ingredients. I've got a cup of all-purpose flour here, maida, that's 120 grams. And I'm going to start with adding just a tiny pinch of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. And then you want to add some baking soda. That's going to give this a lot of lightness and airiness, and it's also going to react with that buttermilk that we've got curdling there. The next thing you want to add is some sugar. Now that's caster sugar that I've added to this pancake mix here, but you can use any kind of sugar. You can use raw sugar. Sometimes I've even added gur shakkar, and that's really great too. Just give that a light little whisk. So let's check on that buttermilk. Ooh, looks good. Now to this buttermilk, I'm first going to crack an egg into this. This is a large egg. A teaspoon of really good vanilla extract. And now to this, I'm going to add a tablespoon of oil. This is a flavorless oil, so avoid extra virgin olive oil or anything, because that leaves a little bit of an aftertaste in whatever you're making. Sunflower oil, safflower oil, they're all good. Now just mix this up really well. Okay, the wet ingredients look really good. And now I'm going to add them to the dry ingredients. As much as is possible, just make a slight well in the center. Now there's nothing scientific about this. It just helps everything mix well together. And pour all of the wet ingredients in. Okay, now you just want to mix this together. Just remember to gently mix it. Don't be too vigorous. You want to make sure that there are no white floury bits left, but tiny little lumps are absolutely fine because they fluff up when we cook this batter. The batter is looking really gorgeous, but we need to let this rest for 10 minutes. You really don't need any special equipment for this recipe, but what really helps is to have a piping bag with a nozzle. Use any thin nozzle and just add the Nutella to this piping bag because it makes it much easier to handle. So that's a good amount of Nutella that's going to go inside the pancakes, and we'll also drizzle them on the pancakes. Just twist this nozzle because we're going to let this rest while the pancake batter also rests, and we need to preheat the paniyaram pan as well. The pan is nice and warm, and I'm just going to brush it with some melted butter now. I've tried making this recipe with brushing the pan with oil, but let's just face it, butter is better. Fill each of these just about halfway through with the batter. Now this is where you're really going to thank me for using this piping bag, because we're going to pipe the Nutella right into the pancake. Now you want to cover up the Nutella with the batter. Very important to cover it up completely, otherwise it will just burn. When you see these bubbles starting to form, that's when you want to gently flip each of the pancakes. Look at that beautiful, beautiful golden color. pancakes are almost done, and I say almost because we need the final garnish which makes all the difference to this recipe. I'm going to dust it with some icing sugar. And give it that final drizzle of Nutella. Be generous. These tiny little Nutella pancakes are so cute. I can just keep eating them all day. I'm going to finish this entire plate now. But before I go off, I must tell you to like, share and subscribe to Get Curried and come back here for more such interesting recipes. I'm going to be making healthy pancakes today. Now, if you've been watching our videos for the last few months, you'll know that every now and then I like to use some cheat ingredients. And today my cheat ingredient is, drum roll please, ta-da-da, a banana. So I'm just going to peel the banana just to get it ready for mashing it together. Just a rough chop, you don't really need a knife for this. Just get that in there. I'm just going to mash this banana just with the back of a fork. So when you're mashing, a little bit of it will stay a little bit chunky, and that's fine. So I'd say that's pretty well mashed together, almost like baby food. Now I'm going to add some flavorings. I'm keeping it very simple, but just something to enhance the flavor that we've got. Just about 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon and half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now I've made these pancakes completely flourless, and there's nothing wrong with making them flourless that way. It's just that they turn out very delicate in texture. So I like adding just about roughly 2 tablespoons of regular all-purpose flour. Just going to give it just a very delicate stir, not too much. And 1 whisked egg. And now, just like we do when we're baking, this is 1 large egg, because I've used 2 bananas, so they need 1 large egg. Mix all of this together. Okay, not too much mixing here. Don't overmix most batters that you're working on, and definitely not a pancake batter, which is as delicate as this one. So I'm just going to put this aside and heat up my pan. So like always, I'm using a non-stick pan, so it doesn't need too much oil. I always use this 1/4 cup measure to measure out the batter for pancakes, and it works really well for me. So the pan's nice and warm, and I'm just going to add this batter slowly to the center of the pan. See, that 1/4 cup measure is just the right size for 1 pancake, and you want to cook this on about medium-high heat. Okay. So this is a little bit more of a delicate pancake, and when you see it kind of firming up from the sides and you see these bubbles forming, you just know that it's time to flip it over. It's going to be a nice golden brownish color at the bottom. Get your spatula to help you and flip it. Just that tiny little amount of flour is what makes all the difference in this pancake. I've made these without the flour as well, and honestly for me it's a little too eggy, but I like it with the flour, just that tiny amount of flour. Just let it cook on this side now. It's cooked on this side too. I'm just going to flip it over into the plate. Just as soon as you see the sides firming up of the pancake, you know it's time to flip it. Okay, that's the last pancake that's done. I'm going to top it up here. So I've not stirred in any toppings into the pancake, so I'm just going to add some fresh strawberries. We've been a little healthy with the pancake, so I just feel like indulging a bit with the chocolate. So just top up these pancakes, some strawberries. And now some chocolate chips. And now I'm gonna add the honey. I just like to pour it all over these pancakes and the strawberries. You can always use maple syrup. So guys, you just have to look at this plate. It's so colorful and beautiful. You'll never be able to tell that these are healthy pancakes. So from everyone here at Get Curried, I'm going to wish all of you a very happy new year. And stay tuned to our channel for loads more recipes coming up right through the year. Happy New Year.
We've spent 2 breakfasts in Europe, and now it's time to take a short trip across the pond. That's what we call the Atlantic Ocean. To the United States of America. Oh, how the world loves Americans. Yeah. Moving on. So, the Americans have a variety of options for their breakfast, like Lucky Charms, cornflakes, Special K, Fruit Loops. But since any idiot can add milk to a bowl of cereal and call it breakfast, we're going to make something from scratch. We're going to make an American favorite, the fluffy pancake with maple syrup, blueberry jam, and a side of bacon. Of course, if you say it's an American, it's going to sound like this. Oh my god, pancakes with like blueberry jam and maple syrup and a side of streaky bacon. Okay, I'm making myself sick now. So to make fluffy pancakes, we need to separate our ingredients in 2 types. The wet ingredients and the dry ingredients. You've heard me say things like grams and milliliters for the past few recipes, but now that we're in America, I'm going to be using the term cups and tablespoons and teaspoons, because you know, who likes the metric system? Yeah, certainly not the Americans. What we do first is take about 2 tablespoons of butter. You might notice that my tablespoon is very generous. Attributes to this, and we put it in a bain-marie to melt. We take about 3/4 of a cup of milk and break in 1 egg. Make sure you whisk the milk and the egg together, incorporating it completely. When the butter has melted, we pour it into the milk and whisk it in. And then we add about 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla essence or extract, whatever you wish. Now that we're done with mixing all the wet ingredients together, it's time to keep it aside and move on to the dry ingredients. 1 cup of flour, 2 tablespoons of caster sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Make sure you mix all of it together with your fingers. Now we add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients and whisk away to glory. So when all the lumps have gone from the bowl and it's turned into a nice thick batter, we take a flat pan, put it on low to medium heat, and put in about 2 cubes of butter. Lightly rub the butter. When tiny bubbles start to appear, just pour in the thick mixture of the pancake, round it a bit, make sure it's round, and keep it thick. That's how the pancakes become nice and fluffy. Don't want it too thin. So pancakes haven't really originated in America, but then again, not much has it? So when you get large bubbles on the top, that means the bottom is not completely, but pretty well cooked. So we're going to flip it, and now we let the other side cook. And you're done. So with all that batter, we have a stack of about 7 to 8 pancakes. And if you wish to make another American favorite like the waffles, you can use exactly the same batter, but you will need a waffle iron. And since we don't have the budget for it, I don't have a waffle iron. Are you listening to me, my producer? We don't have a waffle iron. Buy me a waffle iron. We're going to move on to making the side of bacon. Of course, we're using American streaky bacon. Yes, they actually call this bacon in America. How precious. So to cook bacon, we're going to put a pan on medium flame. We're going to put the bacon directly on the pan without using any oil or any butter. And that's because bacon already has so much fat. The fat's going to melt and help the bacon cook itself. So when the bacon has colored nicely and has shrunk down to about 3/4 of the size, and it looks like an angel has been sent down from heaven, we put it on some absorbent paper. Now that we've got this pan nice and clean, which is very important for the next step, we put it again on a medium flame, and now we cook this already cooked bacon a little bit further in maple syrup. This gives it a flavor that is as good as eating heaven. We let some maple syrup reduce in a pan. Now that the maple syrup is bubbling slightly and you get a slight caramelized smell in the air, just add all your pieces of bacon to it and then slightly saute it in your pan. This process is also called rendering the bacon in maple syrup or glazing the bacon in maple syrup. Make sure a flame is not too high, or else the maple syrup will burn, caramelize, and then it'll just taste bitter. And then there's no reversing it. So when the bacon is shiny and candied like this, and the maple syrup is dripping off it very slowly, it's quite done. And I'm extremely sorry, but I cannot stop myself from eating one. Oh, have to give me a minute. So what we're going to make next is a blueberry jam. So here is about 1/2 cup of fresh blueberries, which I'm going to put in a pan, half the quantity of sugar, and water that is 1/3 the amount of the sugar that we've put in. And now we keep it on a slightly high flame, mix all the blueberries, sugar and water together. And when the sugar starts bubbling slightly, you put in the sugar thermometer and wait till it reaches 105 degrees. So as we reach 105 degrees on the thermometer, turn the gas off, and then we dip our silicone spatula lightly into the jam. And then, when it is appropriately cooled, take a bit of jam between your fingers and check to see if a thread is formed. This thread is not supposed to stay on for a long time because 105 is just a soft thread. Make sure you don't leave the jam in the saucepan for too long, as the temperature may go on rising with the heat of the pan. So now that we're done with the pancakes, the last thing to do is to pour a good amount of maple syrup on it. Otherwise, you know, they're not pancakes. So there you have it. You got pancakes, you got bacon, you got blueberry jam, and a big dollop of butter with maple syrup. That's the complete American breakfast. Promise me, you will never, ever make me do that again. Have a good meal. Bye-bye.
Pancakes are loved by all age groups in most countries, while in different countries they also are known by different names. In the morning we tend to be a little lazy and want to rustle up a lot of things for breakfast, but in minimum time and less ingredients. Today let's see American fluffy pancakes with just 5 ingredients. Hey guys, it's Varun Inamdar and welcome to Get Curried. For fluffy pancakes, the first thing that I'm using is refined flour or all-purpose flour. I love my pancakes to be nice and sweet. Well, I know a lot of my friends who also make pancakes which are less on sweetness. To this, I'm adding in vanilla sugar because I like the nice and subtle flavor of vanilla. The next thing that goes in are some eggs. To this, let's add in some beaten eggs. Well, eggs are going to add into the richness of the pancakes. To increase the richness and flavor, I'm adding in melted butter, and this time it's salted. Well, if it's difficult to get salted butter, just use unsalted butter and add in a generous pinch of salt. Time to add in aerated water or seltzer water. It's important to open the can or the bottle while you're making the pancakes and not use the one which is readily open. Add a little and mix this well. Ensure that this batter becomes nice and lump-free and absolutely smooth. Our pancake batter is done and ready. Let's keep this aside and let's heat a pan or a skillet. You could use an iron skillet, you could use non-stick, that's a personal choice. Well, in recipes that you would have seen about pancakes, you would have realized and read that pancake batter usually needs resting time. But that is the batter that incorporates sodium bicarbonate. But in this recipe, we've used soda water or aerated water, also known as seltzer water. So this does not require resting at all. While the pan is heating, let's add in a knob of salted butter. Let's begin making the pancakes. Allow this to cook on the first side for precisely a minute and you'll start noticing a few bubbles, and that's the sign where you need to flip this. Very gently, very carefully. The pancakes are ready. Let's transfer this in a serving plate and let's stack these up. Similarly, let's start making the rest of the pancakes. With this, your fluffy pancakes are done and ready. This with a hot mug of tea or coffee, and your mornings are bound to get better. Do not forget to like and share the video and subscribe to Get Curried.